Welcome to the Social Podcast, where no discussion or debate is off limits.
Happy summer and welcome to the Social. Okay, fine. It's not officially summer, but it finally feels like it a little bit out here in Toronto, so we're excited. Here, welcome back, everybody. Listen, Helen Mirren, we're going to start with her today. She told The Hollywood Reporter that she knows she doesn't have a beautiful face. She also went on to tell the other people that were in the room, neither do you, Carrie Russell, Niecy Nash, Parker Posey, or any of those leading actresses that were sitting at the table during this Hollywood Reporter session. She said, however, they do have really interesting faces. Thoughts? Thoughts? So do we agree that you don't need a beautiful face to succeed in show business? Maybe just an interesting face?
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. And I also wonder if it is regional. Like, it might be easier to get away with in some places rather than others. And I think it's a little easier in Britain. Any of you guys watch, like, British TV or movies? People look real. Like, no veneers. Their hair's a little messy. It's wrinkles. Just incredible. And I think Helen Mirren is one of them. I think Judi Dench is another. I think Tilda Swinton's another one of them. And it got me thinking, I wonder if, when it comes to film, if it has to do with the directors as well. Have you guys heard of, I think he's an Academy Award-winning director, Mike Leigh? Yes. He does incredible movies. And his two muses have interesting faces. Sally Hawkins, who you've probably heard of, and Marianne Jean-Baptiste. They are incredible women.
Sally Hawkins was in The Shape of Water, which is also an Oscar award-winning movie.
That's right. Yeah. And I just think that an interesting face leads to maybe more interesting roles.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Very interesting. That's a very interesting comment. I interpret it in a different way. I've always looked at actors in two categories. There are the pretty people, and then there are the character actors. For example, Halle Berry, pretty person. Viola Davis, character actor, right? And I think it's very interesting that this is not just a problem for women, it's also a problem for men. I don't think that Paul Giamatti is being offered the same roles as Brad Pitt.
That's a great point.
Right? But what's interesting is both of those groups are always seem to be fighting to be seen in the opposite way, right?
Well, that's true.
Because we've heard Brad Pitt and Matthew McConaughey kind of go, you know what? I don't want to be the boyfriend anymore. I don't want the rom-coms. I want to be a gritty, serious guy. And Paul Giamatti's like, you know, I could kiss a girl. It's okay. People won't die, right?
They won't explode.
And my favorite story is actually Halle Berry was on Dax Shepard's podcast, and she talked about a role in Jungle Fever, very old movie, but she played a crackhead by the name of Vivian. She was actually not supposed to audition for that role. She was supposed to audition for the role of the girlfriend, a very attractive woman, but Spike Lee said she was too pretty to play that role as a crack person. So she was like, she went and auditioned for the role that they wanted her to play. She's like, give me a second. Went out in the hallway, scrubbed all her makeup off, made herself messy, went in and auditioned for Vivian, and he was like, okay, you got the role. So she's always had to fight for people to see her in a real way. So it's interesting, this conversation, but I didn't take it in the wrong way, but I think the bigger issue is, what do these directors and casting agents do to the self-esteem of these women that you would sit there and go, I'm not pretty? Who told you that?
Yeah.
Why do you have that in your head at any stage of the game?
Is it just an American thing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think it's true that, like, I mean, if you look, Helen Mirren also, I think most of us would agree, is incredibly beautiful. And I think she also was beautiful in her early career, too. So it surprises me that she was sometimes told that she needed to change her nose or whatever. I think we have a photo of her somewhere, of her when she was starting out in her career, maybe? Okay. Well,
it's coming.
This is what happens in Latin.
Wow.
There she is.
Yeah.
Like her. Oh, we don't have, oh, there we are. Oh, wow.
Why does she not think that she's pretty,
well,
that she's
exactly.
beautiful?
And I mean, people would argue Carrie Russell was always known, I think, as a leading person, but I do think there is something to this word telegenic, right? And so I think we've all met people who in real life, they're kind of a little bit quirky looking, but then you see them on camera or you see them in print. This happens with models a lot of times, and suddenly they pop. And the reverse can happen too, where somebody is good in person and you see them like, or like the reverse of that.
Right. I know exactly what you mean.
So I think that telegenic matters, and I also think that there's this thing called the golden ratio when we talk about beauty, which is actually about symmetry. So we generally look towards faces that have more symmetry to find them more attractive.
Like an Angelina Jolie.
Yeah,
Which is why they say she's got the most symmetrical face in Hollywood.
Yes.
But let's talk about the elephant in the room. I think that, there's plenty of people who would not be considered conventionally beautiful that have made it in Hollywood.
Yeah.
A lot lot of people. But I think we can also argue that the pretty privilege is something that happens across the world, and it's not just in Hollywood. And the pretty privilege, if you haven't heard about it, is prettier people have more doors open for them. You know, I just saw Nikki Glaser in Toronto. She was here for her thing, and she said, you know, ladies, you need two things. You need a spray tan and you need false eyelashes. And you know why she said that? Because to her, life is easier when you're prettier. And she says, I didn't make that rule up. That rule exists. So does it mean you need no talent? Of course you need talent to make it. Otherwise your career is going to be this short. But the pretty privilege helps. And I thought of one person, and that is Margot Robbie. Undeniably talented. She's Barbie, for heaven's sake. Undeniably talented. But Martin Scorsese, who actually cast her in her probably breakout role, which was playing Leonardo DiCaprio's wife in The Wolf of Wall Street, said it was her outstanding beauty that made her stand out in the audition, period. He looked at her and said, she's gorgeous, and cast her. Now, luckily, she's really talented. So do you see what I'm saying is the doors are open to more people, I think, with your pretty privilege. What you do with it after you get through that door is a whole different story. I think that is full talent.
But I also love the fact that, you know, there used to be so many gatekeepers in Hollywood, so if you weren't considered attractive, you weren't getting it. And now we have these influencers where you can create your own thing on your own TikTok or your YouTube, and it's a lot, we're seeing a lot of people who would not have been given those opportunities if they didn't create their own audience, and I love that we're in that time. So it's not just, you know, 5 people deciding if you're pretty enough to be in that movie. You can kind of write your own ticket.
Or there are even some stories like Meryl Streep, for example. I don't think she's conventionally pretty. I think she's beautiful.
Did you see her in her 20s, though?
Yeah,
she's
certainly.
stunner.
But she didn't get cast in a Dino De Laurentiis film. It was King Kong in '76. Because he said she was too ugly, because she has such striking features, and the role went to Jessica Lange. But then a few years later, you know, she's in The Deer Hunter, she's in Kramer versus Kramer. Her career has not stopped. And she said the best thing that she ever did for her career was to not think about her looks.
Character actor.
I think is incredible.
I agree.
A lot more.
Oh, it's time to move on. And we're moving on to a real pickle. A woman wrote to Slate saying this: my former best friend slept with my husband and we cut off all ties with her. But I just found out she's established 2 very generous college funds for our daughters. I want nothing to do with her guilt money, but would it be petty to turn down the money? So would you take it or leave it? Take it.
Wow.
You guys are take it.
Oh, okay. In the audience, she says it's the kids' money. It's the kids' money. You know,
That's a good point.
This is so deeply manipulative on so many levels, because I don't think this is I'm sorry.
Nope.
This is the way that I absolve myself of feeling guilty over what I did. That's number 1. Number 2, I think about what would you tell your daughters?
Yep.
What
You don't
would
have
you
to tell
tell
them
your
anything.
daughters?
Yep.
What?
I would see my
at
mother
all.
very differently if she took that money. I would not have any respect for her.
Children.
I'm sorry.
And don't forget this. That means every milestone, the graduation. Mom and dad, especially dad, he cheated. Don't forget, dad cheated.
She took him back.
But wait, and anytime you spend your money, you have say. So if I pay money, if I give her the tuition money, do I get say on what she does? You know how people like to insert themselves?
Oh,
like
yeah.
the mother-in-law who gives you money for that wedding, but now all of a sudden she wants to invite 25 people? Are you also inserting her in that?
I don't know. I think that's a leap. I think you
The whole
take
thing is a leap.
the money because it is possibly the only good thing that's come out of this terrible situation. Like, this is a huge win. Right?
No.
These are good questions.
started
We
when they
don't
were still
know.
best friends.
We don't know.
How about the idea that not all money is good money? How about that idea? Because if you're dealing with, say this woman is very rich, right? And we've seen a lot of examples of that, and we're seeing that right now in a case with one rapper named Diddy. A rich person throwing money at you means nothing to them. It's a shut up and go away. So I want to know, how rich is this woman? Maybe this is just the way she's like, oh, I did this. I ruined our friendship. I ruined your marriage.
It's guilt money.
Right? I ruined possibly your children's life because maybe your marriage, I don't know what's happening to it. So this is just me kind of going, here, take this, and then everything should be fine. But
it
she's
is
not
so
actually...
Can I say what the advice columnist said in Slate, which I totally agree with? They said, number 1, get a lawyer so that you never have to communicate with this woman again. It's all done through the lawyer. Number 2, think of this money as a settlement. Like, you went to court and were awarded the cash for injury or loss, like a pretend court, because this woman was injured and she suffered a lot of loss because of this other woman. So see it as a payout, like, you know, damn right you owe me and my family.
So reframe it.
Yeah, I love that idea.
I think
I would want the money.
You would want
and
you would want
take it, and you would take it.
I would take 3 jobs to pay for my kids' tuition over touching a penny of that money.
Now,
I wouldn't
let's
touch
also
it.
just not forget, in this situation, she took her husband back. Okay,
Yeah.
so she's managed to work on things and forgive him and put this into context. And yet this best friend, she's decided not to. I'm not judging that. That is an interesting thing, though, that if you were able to find it in your heart, we all know it takes 2 to tango. So to me, I think that there's stuff to be looked at there. And also, maybe this is the thing. If you can help out your family and this woman wants to give this money, I mean, again, we're assuming the absolute worst of this person because it is a horrible thing. But maybe this is her way of saying, I'm really sorry for what I did, and I know you don't want to talk to me anymore, but here's something that I can do to help out your family.
How about you just
Another
go
way to look
away?
at it, you can live
How
with
about you
it.
do that for my family? How about you just go
Fascinating
away?
topic.
Okay, here's a question. Should you focus on pursuing your passions? In an appearance on the New York Times interview podcast, Miley Cyrus said she doesn't have a makeup line like everyone else because it's simply not her passion. So we were thinking, like, does this mean, like, should you really only pursue something if you're very, very passionate about it?
Yeah, I think so. Don't you guys think so? Listen, I work in television, I've written a book, and I have my own podcast, and I was passionate about those things because they were not easy, they were very hard. And if I wasn't passionate about it, I wouldn't have been able to do it. I also wouldn't have felt connected and be very inauthentic when people are like, oh, you wrote a book, what's it about? I'd be like, I don't really know, I just did it because everybody else is doing it, right?
Yeah.
And I think the bigger issue is Miley's stepfather asked her, he's the one who posed the question, why don't you have a makeup line like everybody else? Because there are tons of celebrities with it. And she was like, that's not what I'm passionate about. And I think the bigger issue is comparing your life to others. And I love that she stand 10 toes down and be like, I'm not doing what everybody else does. If I'm not passionate about it, I'm not touching it. I think we need more integrity like that. Because there are too many people who are looking online, you're looking at somebody else's highlight reel going, oh, I want to do that because she's doing that. It's like, no.
They think they should.
What's authentic to you? What are you passionate about? Because that, it's not even ever going to feel like work, and you're going to love it. You shouldn't just do something to throw your name on it, because I think that's a disaster.
Yeah. I love that. We've all been told since we were very young, follow your passion. But what if you're like not good at your passion? You know, and I say that because I think a lot of people have passions, if you can even identify it. I remember people telling me in my early 20s, what's your passion? Follow your passion. I'm like, I don't know what my passion is. It's a big question we put on young people especially. But Scott Galloway, he's a big-time entrepreneur. He's a professor at NYU. He hosts the Professor G podcast. And he said, we've been telling kids the wrong thing all the way through. We shouldn't tell them follow your passion. He says, tell them follow your talents. He says, we should be really working on identifying what's your natural talent. And maybe it overlaps with a passion. Like, you're a very natural communicator. That is a natural talent of yours.
No, it wasn't natural, honey. It was terrible in the beginning. It was
No,
terrible.
but
I was passionate about it, so I did the work.
Yes, but maybe you're a rare case because what he says is he says passion is, we're putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
He believes that the better you get at something, mastering whatever it is, then your passion grows out of that. For example, he says the only people who tell you follow your passion are people who are already rich and they probably made their money with something super boring. Right?
Oh my
so
God.
it's a really
Interesting.
fascinating thing.
Really
That's what he
interesting.
says. And he says if you're there, now he's writing from the wealth perspective, he's trying to help people earn money.
Yeah.
But he says the idea that you follow your passion and then money comes, he says we've actually been steering kids the wrong way. Follow your talents.
Yeah,
and you
I
don't
think
always
it's
have to monetize your passion.
But what about the people, what about the doctors and the lawyers who became those things because their parents wanted them to become it, and then they leave those professions to follow their passion?
I have a friend
because they
who's
were
a surgeon.
so
That's
miserable
interesting, too.
at their job.
I have a friend who is a really prolific surgeon in this city. And he is very, very honest. He says, I am so good at surgery. My mind is made to fix people. He doesn't like his job.
Yeah.
But what he does like...
That's a recipe for burnout, in my opinion.
He does it with full gusto. He's been doing it very well. It allows him to do his passion, which is DJing. So he loves
so
what he does.
Interesting.
I don't know if I want an unpassionate surgeon opening me up. I want you to be passionate.
No, but I
about
want a
what you're
talented.
talent.
But he's talented.
Can we get the two?
Yeah, maybe.
I remember
Maybe.
when I worked at McLean's, I started off as, like, for all intents and purposes, the secretary, and desperately wanted to be a writer. And one of the editors there sort of said, hey, be careful about wanting to do something for a living that you really, really love. because it might take some of the joy out of it. You know what I mean? Which is, I thought was, I didn't listen to her, but but in retrospect, I get it. Like when it becomes a job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's interesting.
But there's only so much time in our lives, and I think as we get older, if you don't follow the things that light you up, and I think that's what we're saying and referring to when we're talking about passion. It's like what fires you up. If you aren't following those, you're gonna lose out on time doing those types of things, to me. And I think one indicator, if people are sitting around going like, what is it? I don't even know what my passion is. If you get jealous when you're scrolling on anything like that, that's a good indicator of something that you're a passion that you're not following. Like it's a little highlight.
an unlived
I don't
life?
agree.
Yeah,
That could be
I
fake
do.
boobs for me.
No,
Do you know what I
I
mean?
don't
Like,
think you feel that way about
I
fake
love
boobs.
them sometimes.
But do you feel jealous?
Wow.
I know, but-
Yeah.
but here's the deal, but-
I
No,
don't
no.
think that's necessary. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, that's not a career. I mean, when you're watching somebody doing something and you're like, you have a reaction.
I see
I
that.
think that means that there's
Like,
something
I
that they're
could do
doing.
that.
Exactly.
Or see, and I hear what you're saying, but I think when you get that little pang of jealousy, that means that you're not following what you're
That's what
supposed
I
to
mean.
do. Not
I'm
what
saying
that
the same
person.
thing.
Okay, not what that
Yeah.
person's
Yeah,
doing.
100%.
Okay. That's what I was thinking.
Well, listen, we've solved the world's problems, and I think, you know what? I am just so refreshed. I find it refreshing that someone who's already got gajillion dollars isn't trying to try to start a new business to make another gajillion dollars. So you know what, Miley Cyrus, good on you.
Yeah, yeah.
She's got
We all
enough
love
money
that.
and she's
Yeah, yeah.
happy with it.
Subscribe to the Social Podcast so you don't miss a fiery debate. Until next time, socialites.